Hello and welcome back once again to all. Today we are going to learn two topics. These are structure of plant communities and Roncaer's life forms. Both of these topics are actually easy, and you will be able to understand this very quickly. Right, so let us start with the understanding of the very first topic, that is structure of plant communities. So um, as we know that every community exhibits its own structure or a kind of recognizable pattern, right? So what community we are talking here about? It is the plant community, right? So what is community? It is group of different species that are present in a geographical area. We call it community. So this is about plant community, and every plant community has its own structure. It has its own pattern which we can recognize, right? So basically, structurally, the plant community, it can be divided into two types, that is horizontally and vertically. So there could be horizontal structure, and then we can also observe its vertical structure. So when I say horizontal structure, by that it means that we divide the plant community into various sub communities. So we can observe various sub communities present in a single community, and these sub communities, they like represent homogeneous life forms. These are units of homogeneous life forms and ecological relations. So in a sub community, most of the life forms will be same, right? So most of this would be homogeneous. They will be equal, or they may look alike, right? So it gives us an insight into the type of homogeneous life form present in a plant community, and also how all of these are related to each other. Now therefore, horizontal structure can be called as zonation in the community. It defines the zones present in the community, right? And when I say vertical structure, it means that there could be n number of vertical storage in horizontal zone. So in one horizontal zone, there could be many vertical zones present. By vertical structure, we mean the different growth forms that are present in the plant community, right? So that we can call vertical structure, which we also term as stratification, which defines, in very simple term, we can say it is the length of the plant community that we are talking about, and horizontally it is the sub communities that we are observing, right? So this forms zonation, and this shows the stratification, right? So let us understand this with a very simple photograph of a forest, right? So this is a forest, and there are many species. As you can see, there are different species that you can observe, right? There are trees, there are shrubs, large shrubs, small shrubs, and there are herbs, right? There are rhizomaceous plants. So there are many kind of different species that we can observe. Now if we try to break or divide this forest into horizontal zones, then this could be one horizontal zone, right? This could be another horizontal zone, right? So this is horizontal layer 1. All the species that come in this is one horizontal layer. All the species that come in this area is second horizontal layer, right? So for example, in this horizontal layer, there are many species present almost of the same height, right? So these are sub communities. So this is one sub community. Like this, there could be another sub community, right? So this horizontal layer has different species present, but more or less these are homogeneous. But this horizontal zonation can have various vertical layers. So if we divide this horizontal layer into different vertical layers, then this is vertical layer 1 and this is vertical layer 2, right? So why is this called vertical layer 1? Because the length of this plant is a little less than this plant, right? So we can see that there is one vertical layer and then there is this shrub that is having another vertical layer, right? So we can divide a forest into horizontal zones, right, 1 and 2, and likewise we can divide a single horizontal zone into many layers, right? So this is just a very small example. Like this, a whole forest can be divided into various n number of horizontal layers and n number of vertical layers, right? So by vertical layer we mean the length of the growth, the various growth forms that are present, and with the horizontal layer we mean the zonations, the various sub communities that are present in a single community. So this is a single plant community and there are various sub communities that are present in it, and every horizontal zone can have many vertical zones, right? So this is about how a plant community can be divided into horizontal structure and vertical structure. So this is a defined pattern. Now let us understand a bit more about horizontal division, right? So this we can understand, as I told, horizontal division is where we divide the forest or the plant community into various different zones. So these are the different zones. This figure that you are observing is of mountains of western Northern America, right? So here various zones can be observed. This is zone 1, this is zone 2, zone 3, zone 4 and zone 5. This is horizontal zones, right? So let us understand how this horizontal zone or horizontal division defines a particular area, right? So as you can see, at 2000 feet, right, there would be desert biome, right, and each of this desert biome will have two distinct other zones, right? So this desert biome means there will be habitat where there would be more of desert habituated plant will be present, animals would be also of that kind. So plants like cactus, very small grasses would be present, right? So at 2000 feet there is desert biome, and then as we move towards the top up to 5000 feet, right, we can see that there is grassland biome present, right? So now the desert biome shifts to grassland biome, and here more plants like very small annuals, biennials and grass species can be present. This is at 5000 feet, right? Now as we move towards 6250 feet, we can see that there would be conifer forest present at the top with pinon and juniperous zone, like all the plants of juniperous trees would be present, right? So here mostly conifer forest is present. So as you can see, we know that what are conifers. These are plant that have cones present in them and their shape is like a Christmas tree, right? So all of these plants, trees would be present at 6250 feet. And then as we move more upwards towards the edge of the mountain, we can again see at 9500 feet there would be conifer forest of 4 distinct firs and pine zones. So there would be different zones even in this zone, right? So there would be 4 distinct zones of firs and pines. Now firs and pines are again coniferous type of plants. So here as you reach the top, you will see more of the snow accumulated over the tree, because as you move towards top towards the top, the environment becomes more cold, and due to that there would be more snow, and therefore as you can see there are trees that have more accumulation of snow, right? So this is at 9500 feet, and as we reach towards the top of the mountain, you will be able to see that there is tundra biome. Now what is tundra biome? Tundra biome is a biome where there is totally snow covered area, and as there is totally snow covered area, there is almost no vegetation present, and if vegetation is at all present in this area, then there would be what do we say, the vegetation would be frost, right? So this is called tundra biome. So as we reach towards the top of the mountain, we can see that there would be tundra biome, right? So this, as I told, is an example of mountains of Western North America. Now this is just an example. Like this, different mountains, different depending upon the area, depending upon the climate there, can have different zonations in this way, and the top could be tundra biome, or sometimes the top could be totally dry. It totally depends upon the area in which the mountain is present, right? So this is just an example of how horizontal zonations can be present in forest areas, right? So now we move towards the understanding of horizontal structure in pond ecosystem. Just in the previous slide we saw that how horizontal zonations can be present, and depending upon the zonations the communities vary, right? We saw that there was grassland community in one zone, then there was conifer community in another zone, right? So similarly there could be horizontal zonations in pond ecosystem also, that is in lakes also, in water bodies also. So we are understanding this with an example of pond ecosystem. So in a pond there could be 3 to 4 zones. These are littoral zone, limnatic zone, and profundal zone, right? I think all of you must have already learnt about this somewhere along during your studies, right? But in very brief, this is littoral zone, limnatic zone, and profundal zone, right? So let us understand that what are these 3 zones and on what criteria these zones are divided. So first is littoral zone, right? So littoral zone, as you can see, this area where earth is in contact with the ocean water or the sea water or the pond water is called the littoral zone. This is near to the shore, right? This is the shore area, and this area is always oxygen rich. There is a good amount of oxygen present. There is light penetration also in a good amount. So as the sun rays fall, the light penetration here is very good, and therefore we can observe the growth of good aquatic plants over here, because as oxygen is present, as light penetration is there, the plants can grow in this zone, right? Now let us understand about limnatic zone. Now limnatic zone is the open water zone, right? So the open water that you see between the littoral zones is the limnatic zone, right? So this is also littoral zone, and this is also littoral zone, which is near the shore, and between these two, a little deep, there is limnatic zone present. This is deep down the littoral zone, and this is limnatic zone is applicable only up to the depth of effective light penetration. So this is the depth where up to light can penetrate. So sun rays can penetrate up to this level. So this is the zone of saturation of effective light, right? So light will be able to penetrate only up to this zone, right? So this is limnatic zone, and therefore we can observe all kind of autotrophs like algae, and also many of the animal species like fish and all we can observe in this limnatic zone, right? Because there is light penetration is there, and it is deep down after the littoral zone where the animals and organisms need to be present to protect themselves, right? So this is limnatic zone where the level of saturation of light reaches, right? So then let us know about profundal zone. Now profundal zone is the lowermost zone, right? Now here the light penetration is minimum, there is almost no light penetration. This is very dark zone, right? So here mainly we can observe organisms like heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are all the kind of bacteria and fungi that we can observe, because these are able to decompose the debris that comes from the upper portion of the pond. All the debris of the algae and any animal and all would be decomposed by the heterotroph organisms, because they do not require to perform photosynthesis, right? So these all organisms would be present in this deep water area. So this is the deep water area where there is minimum light penetration, and there is also a benthic zone present, which is the substratum, which is the basal portion of the pond, right? So this is how a pond ecosystem can also have horizontal layers, right? Now let us understand about the vertical division or stratification. So we can very simply understand this with this diagram, right? So as I told, vertical division is like length of the various growth forms that are present, right? So for example, this is one layer, this is one layer, this is another layer, this is another layer, right? So in a forest usually vertical layer can be divided into following parts. These are subterranean subdivision, right? So subterranean subdivision is where which is rich in humus. This area is rich in humus because of all the organic matter present, that is present because of the decomposition of all the matter that has been obtained after the fall of maybe leaf or maybe animals that have died has led to the formation of humus. So this area is rich in humus, and there are also roots of plants present. There is rhizome and all present, and there are organisms like fungi and bacteria present. So this is the subterranean subdivision. Subterranean means that part which is present below ground, right? So this is below ground area. Then comes the forest floor. So this is the next vertical layer that we are talking about. This is the forest floor, where there is dead organic matter would be present over here, right? There would be litter and all the fallen organic matter of plants and animals, and also many kinds of fungi and bacteria would be active in this layer, right? And then the next is the herbaceous vegetation. So there would be grasses or small herbs that would be present. So up to this it would be herbaceous vegetation, and then follows the shrubby plants. So up to this layer it would be shrubs, right? And then follows the next which are the trees. So the topmost layer of a vertical division are the trees. So this is a vertical division of a typical forest area, a typical tropical forest area. But for example, if we consider about a grassland, then a grassland will only have 2 to 3 layers. For example, it will have a subterranean subdivision. It may have, sometimes it may have a grassland floor, or sometimes it may not have, and there would be herbaceous vegetation that is only up to the grass, up to where the grass grows, right? And then there would be no shrub and trees. So a grassland vertical division is very simple. A forest vertical division is always more complex. Likewise, there are many tropical rainforests which will have even vertical divisions of 8 to 9 divisions, right? So this is only 5 divisions. Like this, there could be 8 vertical divisions or 9 vertical divisions, depending upon the type of the forest and the light penetrating there and what is the flora growing there. Depending upon that, there could be n number of stratifications, right? So this is about vertical division. I hope this is clear with you. So with this, we come to the end of our topic for structure of plant communities, right? So basically it could be divided into a horizontal structure and a vertical structure, right? So now we move towards the next topic, which is Ronquier's life forms, right? So Ronquier's life form is named after a scientist who is Christian C. Ronquier. He was a Danish botanist, right? So he classified life forms on the basis of certain criteria. So in past, what used to happen, that ecologists, they use the general appearance of plant communities as the basis of study of communities, right? So what used to happen is that the way the plant community looked, how used to be the physical appearance of the plant, based on that the communities were studied, right? And therefore let us understand what is a life form. Life form is the sum of adaptation of plant to climate. So Ronquier defined life form as the sum of adaptation of the plant to the climate. That is, how does a plant adapt to a particular climate, then it would be termed as life form, right? So he determined life form by the way in which plant responds to unfavorable conditions. So what he told, that life form can only be determined on the basis that how does a plant is going to perform in unfavorable condition, how is it going to respond in unfavorable condition. For example, if there is cold, how is that plant going to respond? For example, if there is drought, how is that plant going to respond? Based on that, he determined life form, right? So this actually determines the limit of distribution. So how a plant will respond to unfavorable condition, that will determine its limit of distribution, right? Because for example, if there is a cold climate and a plant is not able to adapt or respond to this unfavorable condition, then its distribution, its number will reduce. Obviously there would be less distribution. And if the plant responds well to the unfavorable condition, right, it has ways to respond to unfavorable condition, then its distribution would be more because it has adapted to that unfavorable condition. So this determines the limit of distribution. Now Ronquier classified the plants on the basis of position of perinating birds, right? And he classified plants on the basis of position of perinating birds, the degree of protection during adverse condition. He classified on the basis of degree of protection during adverse condition, that is how the perinating birds are protected during adverse conditions. Now you must be thinking that what are perinating birds? So for those who do not know, perinating birds are means by which plants survive unfavorable conditions. So these are organs, like most commonly these are rhizomes, the storage organs that you know, right? The bulbs, these all are perinating birds, right? And why does plant produce a storage organ? Is basically to store its food in that part so that it can be utilized later. So by that vegetative organ, it actually survives the unfavorable condition, right? So there are many rhizomaceous perinating birds that also we eat, right? But these are actually organs of the plant that they produce to store food so that it can be used later on by the plant in unfavorable conditions, right? So on the basis of the position of such perinating birds, Ronquier has made the classification of plant, right? So how are these perinating birds protected during adverse conditions, during unfavorable conditions? Depending upon that, Ronquier has made his own Ronquier's life forms, classifying the plant into various life form, right? So mainly Ronquier has classified into total 5 categories of plants. These are phanerophytes, chemiophytes, hemicryptophytes, cryptophytes or geophytes, and therophytes, right? So we are going to understand each of this in a bit detail, and this is very easy. You will very quickly understand because this is based upon the position of perinating birds. You just have to remember the position of the perinating birds and you will be able to identify the types of plants based on the classification of Ronquier, right? So let us first understand about phanerophytes. Now phanero means visible. That means the perinating bird that we are talking about would be visible. We can see it, right? So these are phanerophytes. Here the perinating birds are present on erect shoots, right? So on the very erect shoot, on the straight shoot, these perinating birds are present, and as they are present on the erect shoot, these are least protected. So they do not have much protection because these are exposed to the outer environment. So we can understand this with a very simple diagram of this, which shows that this black thing that you see are the birds and this is the tree. So the birds are exposed to the outer environment, right? On the erect shoot, this is the erect shoot over which the birds are present, and these are exposed to the outer environment, and therefore these are least protected. So these are most abundant in tropical climate, right? So tropical climate is kind of climate where there is rainfall almost year around, though the climate is receives high temperature also, but because of cloudy environment the temperature is not much felt, and also there is much rainfall. So the forest there is lush green, right? And there are no adverse conditions. Actually there is no very harsh cold or very harsh drought. No such condition is present, and therefore these kind of plants are more in tropical climate because they do not need to hide their perinating birds because they are not exposed to unfavorable condition, right? So therefore they have their birds exposed outside. So here you can consider examples of most of the trees that you know, and especially palm trees that you know, they have their perinating birds like over the very top of the erect shoot, right? So these are phanerophytes, right? And their number decreases from tropic to polar. So such plants, that is phanerophytes, will decrease as we move towards polar region. Why? Because polar region have more colder climate, and as they have more cold climate, so obviously there would be much unfavorable condition, and so these kind of birds exposed outside, kind of phanerophytes, would not be present in polar region, right? So Now depending upon the size, like what is the size of the plant or what is the size of the phanerophytes, these are mainly of four types, that is megaphanerophyte, mesophanerophyte, microphanerophyte and nanophanerophyte, right? So let us understand what are megaphanerophytes. As the name suggests, these are tall trees over 30 meters of height, so their height reaches 30 meters. Then mesophanerophytes are between megaphanerophytes and microphanerophytes. These are trees that have 8 to 30 meters height. Then microphanerophytes are smaller, that is smaller than mega and mesophanerophytes, that is 2 to 8 meters. And the nanophanerophytes are even smaller, they have height of under 2 meters, right? But most of these would be present in tropical climate only because they are not exposed to unfavorable condition, which leads to the development of birds on erect shoots and where they are least protected, right? So this is about phanerophytes. Now let us understand what are chemiophytes. So cheme means dwarf. So these are dwarf plants in comparison to the phanerophytes. So here the perinating birds is present close to the ground surface, right? So we can understand this with this example where the black structure that you see are the birds and these are present. This line that you see is the ground level and this is close to the ground level but a little above the ground level, right? So these are chemophytes and these are found more in cold regions and at higher latitudes, right? So why are these found more in cold regions? Because as I told, cold region would have kind of little harsh environment, unfavorable condition, so these birds are to be protected by the harsh cold and therefore you can see their small dwarf plants. Like this is an example of lavender plant. This is present in cold region and at high latitudes, right? They have their birds hidden near the ground, right? So these are basically divided into four types. Chemiophytes, these could be sufruticose, passive, active and cushion plants, right? So let us understand what are sufruticose chemiophytes. In this type of chemiophytes, the perinating birds, it arise on the lower portion of erect stem. So this can be understood with this example. This black portion is the perinating bird and you can see that the perinating bird arises from the lower portion of the stem. This is an erect stem and from its lower portion this bird is arising. So this is sufruticose, right, where erect stem is present and bird arises from the lower portion of erect stem. Now let us understand what is passive chemiophytes. Now these have erect shoots that wither away and the birds arise along the horizontal stem. So this is the erect shoot, but this erect shoot is going to wither away, that is it is going to dry, so it dries out and the birds now arise from horizontal stem. So here new horizontal stems come out and the birds, these black birds, are present on the horizontal stem, right? So the erect shoot withers away, dries away and the birds arise from the horizontal stem. So this is passive type of chemiophytes, right? Then next is active chemiophytes. Now here there is no erect shoot. So as you can see in the previous two there were erect shoot present, so but here there is no erect shoot present, there is no erect shoot, only there are horizontal shoots coming out and the birds are produced in this horizontal shoot, right? So there is only horizontal shoots present, no erect stem. Whereas in passive there is erect stem formed, but that erect stem then withers away and dries away and then the birds arise from new horizontal branches. Whereas in active there is no erect shoot and because of that horizontal shoots come out, and their bud formation takes place in horizontal shoot. Now the cushion plant is a very short, reduced and compact version, right? So the shoots that you see here are very short and these are very compact. It looks like a cushion, and therefore this is called cushion plants, and the birds arise on these shoots, right? So there is actually, we cannot say whether it is horizontal or whether it is erect shoot. This looks like a cushion, and there are many shoots arising which are reduced and compact in form. So this is cushion campophytes, right? So this is again very simple. I think you can identify it by the position of the bud, right? So bud, it is present close to the ground surface, because this grows in colder regions, it needs to be protected. So it is present near the ground, not embedded in the ground, but close to the ground. And these are of 4 types depending upon the position of perinating birds on the shoot, right? So this is about campophytes. Now we move towards the understanding of hemicryptophytes, right? So hemicryptophytes, that means half hidden. Now the perinating birds that we would see would be half hidden in soil surface. By now we saw that phanerophytes have birds exposed on the top of the erect branch. The next division, that is the campophytes, have had their birds almost close to the ground surface, and now these, the hemicryptophytes, have half hidden birds in the soil surface, right? So this is half hidden. So there are many biennials or perennials that can fall into this category. So as you can see in this diagram, this black structure that you see are the birds. So these are half hidden, half above the soil, half inside the soil. So these are half hidden. So in such kind of plants, the shoots, they actually die each year at the onset of unfavorable conditions. So as I told, this bifurcation is based on the basis of the position of buds in the unfavorable condition. So the shoots of such plants, hemicryptophytes, they actually die each year because the condition is unfavorable for them during that time, and therefore the shoots die, right? So these are mostly found in cold temperate zone, right? So temperate zone are areas where if there is cold, then there is very harsh cold, and if there is drought, then there is very harsh drought. So such areas have these kind of birds where they can actually try to hide their perinating birds, right? So therefore these plants, their shoots, they die each year on the onset of unfavorable conditions. So here is an example of such hemicryptophyte. This is a butterwort plant. As you can see, there is leaves present here only at the base, and this leaf actually is protecting the perinating bird below it, right? So the bird is half hidden in the soil and half out of the soil, and this is the flowering, right? Now these hemicryptophytes can be divided into 3 types. These are proto-hemicryptophytes, partial rosette hemicryptophytes, and rosette hemicryptophytes. Now see, these leaves that we saw is actually rosette arrangement, right? The arrangement of leaves is in a whorl, in a circular pattern. Now based upon the arrangement of leaves, there could be 3 kinds of hemicryptophytes. So first is proto-hemicryptophytes, the very first type of primitive type of hemicryptophyte. These have lowermost leaves less perfectly developed. So this we can understand with a diagram like this, where the leaves are present but not perfectly developed, as in here, right? So there are very less developed leaves present. These are proto-hemicryptophytes. Then partial rosette. This is a rosette of leaves developed at the base of the aerial shoot. And also there is some leaves present above rosette. So what is partial rosette is there also along with the rosette arrangement of leaves, there are certain leaves present on the top also. So above the rosette leaves also. So therefore it is called partial rosette, where along with the rosette leaves there are certain other leaves present over its top also. Right, and then there is rosette hemicryptophytes, where leaves are limited to rosette at the base of the aerial shoot. So as you can see, this is a rosette hemicryptophyte where there are no other leaves except the rosette arrangement. Right, so this figure that we saw is a rosette hemicryptophyte. Right, but there could be partial rosette hemicryptophytes also, and there could be proto-hemicryptophytes also having very less developed leaves. Right, so this is because they hide their perinating buds below the leaves, half hidden in the soil and half above the soil. Right, now we move towards the understanding of cryptophytes. Crypto means hidden. Right, so now we have reached to the understanding of plants having perinating buds that are hidden in soil or water as bulbs and rhizomes. Right, so now the perinating buds are completely hidden in soil or completely hidden in water. These may be hidden as bulbs or as rhizomes. Right, now and these are mostly found in arid zone. Now plants that grow in terrestrial environment are included here in arid zone. So now most of the examples that falls under cryptophytes are tulips, daffodils, hyacinth. These yellow plants that you see are the daffodils. This that you see are the tulips, right? And hyacinth I'll show which is hyacinth. Right, so here most of the plants that you see, these structures are the perinating buds. This is perinating bud, this is perinating bud, and this is present almost below the ground. Right, so this is hidden. Now these cryptophytes are mainly of three types. This is geophyte, halophytes and hydrophytes. Right, so geophytes are underground perinating structure in the soil. Right, so here comes most of the example of tulips, daffodils and hyacinth. Right, okay, sorry, hyacinth is actually I'll put it into hydrophytes. This is just a mistake. Right, I'll explain what is there in hydrophytes. So for now we understand that geophytes are those kind of cryptophytes that have their underground perinating structures in the soil. So when the underground part, this structure, perinating body, is present in the soil, hidden in the soil, then it would be termed as geophytes. Right, so geophytes are most of the plants that grow in arid zone. Right, now let us understand what are halophytes. Halophytes are aerial shoots above water level. They have their aerial shoots above water level, and their perinating buds is in soil or mud below water level. So this is a kind of marshy situation, right, where the perinating buds are present in soil or mud and it is a little below water level. So you can imagine a marshy situation where there is mud like of situation and the plants are growing there. Right, so here example of halophytes is, I had explained this in previous lecture also. This is typha. Right, this is a type of plant which grows in marshy environment where its roots are present in the water, in muddy type of environment, whereas the rest of the body is above the water level. So this is halophytes. And the next is hydrophytes. They have leaves submerged or floating. So these could be floating hydrophytes or submerged hydrophytes. And their perinating birds are under water. So their perinating birds, as so storage organ is present under water. So here we can take an example of Eichhornia crassipes. This is water hyacinth, right? I had written hyacinth here. This is water hyacinth, right? This is Eichhornia. You must have seen this plant in near many ponds and lakes. Sometimes when you go through train, right, when train moves from above the water surface, you would have seen these kind of plants over the water. These are actually considered weed and they grow profusely in water, right? So these are Eichhornia and it has its storage organ under the water. So these are hydrophytes. Basically these are cryptophytes which have their organs hidden in water. So these are hydrophytes, cryptophytes that having perinating birds under water, right? So this is about cryptophytes. Now we move towards the understanding of therophytes, which is the last life form classified by Ronquier. Now here thero means summer, right? So here these are mostly seasonal plants, right? So what these plants will do, they will complete their life cycle in one single season, right? Because they have to survive the summer. So what they will do is they will complete their life cycle in one favorable season, right? So these are plants like this that have their birds hidden, and these plants actually remain dormant for the rest of the unfavorable season. So these plants will remain dormant until the favorable season comes. So these are much common in deserts. So we know what happens in deserts. This is very unfavorable condition, very less water and very harsh situation. The area is totally arid, right? Harsh summer, right? Therefore they have to survive such situation. So as and when they receive a favorable condition, these plants will complete their life cycle in that one single season. Say for example, if it's monsoon season, and if as soon as they get favorable season, they will complete its life cycle in that season itself. It will not wait for the summer season to come, right? So here there are these very small plants that you can observe sometimes coming out from paved footpath. Actually this is a plant called Arabidiopsis thaliana, and this plant is used extensively in molecular studies, but this is a therophyte. And similarly this is another plant, this is called chinkweed, or this is also called, its scientific name is Pactis paposa. This plant is also very small. It comes out when it receives favorable conditions, and it completes its life cycle in that one season and then again becomes dormant, right? So these are therophytes which have to survive the summer, right? So this is it about the classification provided by Ronquier. So as we saw, Ronquier has classified on the basis of the position of perinating birds into 5 types, right? These are phanerophytes, chamephytes, hemicryptophytes, cryptophytes and therophytes. And I think it is very easy, you can very easily understand depending upon the perinating bird's position that what are the structures, right? And okay, so that is it for today, and if you have any doubt in this part, in any case you can just let me know, I'll clear the doubts. Till then, thank you.